Ladies and gentlemen, this is Jesse with A&J Classic Restoration and Repair. I hope that all of you are having a beautiful day today. May the Lord bless you and your families. Well, let's get to it. What I'm doing right here, I'm doing a lower section, a rust repair on a lower section. And before I just went through this and repaired this, I was like, you know what? I should just make some content on it. And that's what I'm going to do right now. I'm going to do the best I can to explain myself, to explain to you, so you can make this happen in your home. And if it's something that you want to get into, you know, as business-wise, or just have a project that has a typical quarter panel rust, I hope I could explain and do everything I can to guide you to make that happen for you. So one of the biggest things that I'm going to share is that they sell these lower sections. This is a 1972 Chevelle, by the way. And this is a lower section that you could buy. This car was rusted here in this area, but it was also hit. So I had to straighten out this piece. But what I want to show you right now is on a rust repair. Every time before you cut your car up, where your rust is at, or the size of your panel, just don't cut nothing. Let the car be complete how it is. Lay your panel on there. You know, you want to push it as hard as you can so it can sit. What you do, you come in and you trace it. You do a line, and I'm going to tell you why you do the line. You trim that line out, you pop it off, now you have a line here. And the reason for that is because you're gonna go an inch down from where you marked, and you're gonna cut that off. And you're gonna cut all your panel where it was rusted on the sides. And the reason why you need that inch is because you're gonna want it to hang your piece on there and do your markings and your final attachments. You know, so you get your piece, you mark it, then you come back when you get rid of all your metal. You hit it off, you grind it off, you chisel the sides, and then you get your piece, you put it back on, then you're gonna drill your piece on. And then that's what I'm gonna show you right now. You know, I apologize that I cut this section out, but I had cut this section out because I want to see how far the rust was, and I wasn't able to catch that, but that's pretty simple. You just wanna cut it, pop it off. It has a couple spots, drill those out, and then the piece just falls off. You know, pretty simple, pretty easy. But that being said, this is what you need to do. So you grab your piece, put it back in there. You make sure that your piece is lined up from the bottom. Then what you do, you get a self-tapper. Let me grab one. You grab a self-tapper, and you line up your piece where you want it. Okay. Then you're gonna come in. And that's the reason why you need that little inch, because you're gonna screw below it in order to get that nice line where your panel's gonna go. So you come in and push the side on here. You want to make sure that your panel, you're able to screw it through the inside or your fender well. The bottom, get a couple screws in there, and that way your piece is flat where it needs to be. That's the most important thing about this. You know, you're gonna need some of these, the regular ply. You can find these anywhere. They're not that expensive, and these will help you push your panel in and hold it. Or you come back and put a couple screws in there, and I'm gonna put a couple screws in here. There we go. I'm gonna hold it. You push it, and you hold it there. See what I'm saying? So that there, your panel is already sitting where it needs to be. And make sure you put at least every 5 or 4 inches you put a few screws because you want your panel to be aligned good, so when you cut it, your panel, everything lines up. Or else you'll sometimes run in where your panel is a little off or a little down on the corner. You always want it to be able to hold it. The reason for the self tappers is so it could be where you need it to be, and in order for you to move it, let me get a screw down here. Yeah, that's good. Let me get some screws. Yeah, you want to make sure it's nice and flat. Put a couple screws in the bottom, and I'll show you right now why I'm doing what I'm doing. It'll explain everything right now. So once you got your panel nice and hard on there, and that's just self tappers, you're gonna come in and trace your top piece. Let me get my marker. Where's my marker at? Let me get my marker. Right here. Got it. You're gonna grab your marker and you're gonna mark right on that edge. That's where you're gonna come in. That's where you're gonna come in and cut with your die grinder. And that's where your piece is gonna meet and overlap. So the size of the disc that you use, they're not that very big. They're pretty thin. It'll cut and that'll overlay. And I'll show you how to hold that and how to grab onto it. That being said, I'm gonna grab my cutter and I'm gonna go ahead and cut this out. So what you wanna do, hold on. Yeah, don't forget to mark your inner piece. That being said, I'm gonna get my cutter and we're gonna cut this, make it happen. So I got my cutter here. I personally like using these electric cutters because it'll just get it done. Just boom, you start cutting. Yes, the air cutters, the air die grinders or cutters, with the ones with the disc, they'll cut, but it'll take you about maybe 2 or 3 discs to cut this section out, cut the intersection out. And that's one of the reasons why I use these, because it'll just get it done. And I'm gonna show you that right now. So what you're gonna do is take this piece back off. You wanna get your piece back off of here. So you can be able to cut your panel where needs to be cut in order to get your back on here. One of the most important things, especially if you're fixing rust, what you want to do is every time you cut out your bad part or your bad section, you wanna clean up the inside. Every time, majority of the time, when you take pieces off, they're always gonna be either have a little bit of surface rust or they're gonna be dirty. Blow it out, wash it in there, clean it or sand it, you know, and shoot some rust preventative. You know, you can get some like some PR15 and brush it on there, and then put your piece in there, and what that'll do is just clean up that area that you worked in. You know that right there is gonna be harder and it's gonna take longer for anything to happen. Why? Because you cleaned it up and you put something to stop the rust. Rust needs water and oxygen in order to start eating. I understand a lot of these cars, They're not gonna see rain or anything. You're not gonna spend a lot of money to leave a car outside and get wet or sit there in the weather and snow and stuff like that. Most likely you're gonna have it in your garage and be working on it. But even though you take that piece, take a little time, and if you can't afford PR15 for whatever reason, clean it up, sand it down with Scotch-Brite a little bit, sand it, and put at least some Rust-Oleum paint. That'll seal it and at least keep it from rusting. You know, what I try to do with my content is try to help and guide and motivate all of you out there, and especially the unfortunate that don't have all that money in the world, you know, to just go and pay 20, 30,000 for somebody to do their work. You know, what I'm trying to do with this is motivate more people to get into the classic restoration, to the art of it, because it's a dying trade. And one of the things that I want to share with you guys is that I am going to break that chain with everything and anything that I know. I'm going to give it to you guys. So stay tuned. We're going to make it happen. That being said, always safety glasses. You don't want to get a piece of metal in your eye. And all you have to do is just cut it right on that line that you made, and your piece is going to lay there. So that being said, let's cut it. So here we go. Cut the piece off. Ready for the other piece. I'm going to put it in there real quick so I can show you how it laid in there. Put it from the bottom. Line it up with the side pieces. Check that out. Perfect. Well, before we move before we move forward, make sure that whenever you make your piece, you're gonna have your I hope you could see, you could have your holes where your self-tappers hold on, but you're gonna have to come back and drill 1/4-inch holes so you could weld the spot welds on your metal and on your side pieces. So you can see here where I have my self-tapper holes, and then I have my regular holes that I drilled out so I could spot weld, which I'll show you that in a minute. With that being said, you want to grab your piece, line it up all the time before you even start welding. Check it and make sure everything lines up. You're happy with it. Always remember, especially Chevelles, they have this little light here, and a lot of other cars too. Doesn't matter what it is. Usually when you cut it, it'll flop out or it'll flop in. So always pay attention where it's moving. Sometimes you may think, well, I think it needs to come out more, but it's not true. Sometimes it just needs to come in just a little bit, and it'll meet your piece. So always make sure that you see where your piece is flopping to. It could be out or in, and just make sure you adjust it when you're doing that. But I'm going to show you what to use to make that right, and that's where I'm going to get you right now. But before you do that, make sure you at least clean up the paint. Let me grab my grinder. Wherever you're gonna grind, wherever you're gonna weld, make sure you at least clean it up. The paint that's on these things, on panels and stuff like that, is only shipping paint. There's only to transport it. It's not paint that is there that's gonna rust prevent or anything. Always make sure you clean it off in order for you to weld, because that's gonna not give you a good weld. Just clean up with clean it up. That way your weld sticks really good and you don't run into problems. Here I'm going to weld some. Clean this up. Clean up your edge. You just want to get a good weld wherever you're going to weld. You know, and sometimes, and majority of the time when you have paint, your weld will pop, boom, or you would have to weld a lot in order to get the heat to melt the paint and then your weld to grab, and you don't want to do that. You want to make things easier for you. That's the reason why I'm here, is to help you make things easy, to help you motivate you and not to discourage you. Okay, that's not me. So I'm gonna put this piece on, and what I'm gonna do, I'm gonna get under here real quick and get one of my self-tapper. Look for one of my self-tap holes that I have already in here, and that's what I'm gonna try to guide my piece into. All right, I gotta look for them. That's one right there. It's a little hard to see without, I don't have that much lighting, but I could get it there. So always make sure you put your self-tappers right where you took them out of, and that's gonna help you line up your piece. And that's what I'm doing right now. Okay, that's one. Okay, that looks good. I'm gonna come to the front. I'm gonna raise that piece, and what I'm doing, I'm using my bottom bolts my bottom hole that I made to guide my piece. Because you don't want it to move. You want it to land right where it was at. There we go. There we go. That's what I'm talking about. The reason why you want these bottom holes to fit is because these were already on when you lined up your piece. You get what I'm saying? So that's gonna push your panel where it was, the holes where they are, and it's gonna line you all across. That being said, oh, dropping everything out of my pockets. Give me a minute. All right, we're good. Now, you wanna come back to your side, and you wanna put those self-tappers back where they belong on the side, because those two sections are gonna guide. They're gonna guide your piece where it needs to be, and that's the important thing with metal fabrication, is that you want whatever structure you have that's gonna line you up. That's what's gonna keep your piece where it needs to be. That way it doesn't sag. That way, when you put a weld in there, it doesn't start moving this way or pulling this way. Because one thing I want to share, metal does move. Say if I didn't use these self-tappers to hold this piece on the four sides, and I start tacking or welding, and if I start here and I put 3-4 tacks there, the metal will tend to either pull in or pull out. And that'll cause you a problem, because by the time you get here, your panel's not gonna line up, and it's gonna line up in the bottom. So you'll be like, I'm doing something wrong. I don't think I wanna do it. And the reason why, and I keep repeating myself, I do this to motivate you to do it at home, for dad and son that are out there in the garage working, or you just want to get into the trade. I hope I'm doing everything I can to guide you where you need to be. That being said, I'm gonna grab my panel clamps, and what I want to share is these are little panel clamps that and I'll show you right now. What these do, you turn them out, and they have a little square metal. This goes in through the metal, this goes through the back, and then you turn it and it pushes your panel where it needs to be. That's what these are for. And especially like me right now, I'm working by myself, so you want to try to do the best you can to hold it with something that's going to hold it steady. It's very thin of a metal, not that thick, which is going to be the thickness that you need to weld, because you're going to butt weld it all across. That being said, I'm going to put this in, and I'm going to show you how this is going to close. It's going to close up, so pay attention here. I'm going to do the best I can to do it by myself. I'm going to try to move it all the way to the end, probably. Get it there. Just turn it and just kind of snug them in first. You want to snug it. You don't want to tighten the first one up because you want all of them to fit equally. So I'm going to put another one over here, the edge. And these little things, you could find them at Harbor Freight. They're not that expensive. They're cheap. They're only like, I think they're like $6 or something like that. They're not that bad. Get yourself some of them because it'll help you get things done for yourself. I guarantee you that. I'm going to try to get one all the way in the end. Hold on, I'm gonna have to get something to stand on because I have the car lifted. I had to get a crate because this car's tall. I can't reach it. Hold on, give me a minute. If you can't get it in, sometimes you have to unscrew it a lot in order to get that piece in there, but you want to be able to get it there. I got that one, and as you see there, you know, the piece is coming in right where it needs to be. You know, I'm gonna put one right here also, but that being on there, you're gonna tighten them in and it's gonna hold your piece and you just come in and just weld that, which I'll show you right now what I'm gonna do. That being said, I'm gonna get my welder ready and come back and show you what I'm gonna do. Let's make it happen. Well, we're back. Let's make it happen. So as you can see, I put my clamps in, and one of the things you want to do when you line up your clamps, I said don't tighten them up when you're putting it in because you want this panel to be flush. Sometimes this panel, like I said, is going to be kicking out or going to be kicking in. So depending where your panel is going is you're going to do. And this panel is kicking out. So what I had to do is push my panel in and then tighten. Push, tighten. And what that does, it closes up your gap to a perfect welding gap and a smooth surface to where you weld, you grind, bodywork, and done. Perfect. That being said, I want to share one more thing. Get one of these small little tiny screwdrivers. A lot of you will recognize them. They give them away at the Snap-on trucks. You don't have to have an account with Snap-on. Just whenever you see, you know, coworkers walk in there, just ask them, "Man, can I have a screwdriver?" They'll give it to you for free. I love these because these fit and they're small and they fit everywhere. That being said, I'm going to show you what I'm talking about. Sometimes your metal is a little out to where it gets stuck, and I'm going to show you right here. You hear that? That's because it's getting stuck. And you hear the step? Because it's getting stuck. You want to stick your screwdriver in there. Alright, and that's the reason why I say to get a small one. You want to bend it over, and you want to make sure it's flush. And you come with your welder, and you put a tack right there. You put your tack, and then that's beautiful right there. Look, up and down. There, flat. Rather than where when it was off, it'll get stuck. So that being said, that's what you're gonna do across your panel. Is always make sure it's even, and if it's not, you want to stick that screwdriver in there and just barely touch it so it could come your way, and put that tack in there. You know. Most important thing, get yourself a big welder with a gas welder, because it'll help you get your work done cleaner. Yes, you could do it with the what's it called, a flux core, But a MIG welder is always going to be a lot better for you, especially if you're learning. And get yourself a 110 welder. Don't use a 220. Yes, you could do it with a 220, but you're going to struggle because it'll eat the metal and it'll blow through here and there. You could move. I could do it, but I don't recommend it if you're learning and it's something that you want to do. The reason why, because you'll start eating metal and it'll discourage you. You'll be like, no, I don't think I'm good for this. I don't think I could do it. Now it's just blowing the metal and then you push your project to a side. That's not what I'm here for. I'm here to help you, guide you, and motivate you. Let's make it happen. So I'm gonna keep going and always check with your hand. That looks good. I'll put 2 tacks here. I ended up putting 3. Alright. I thought something was wrong with my gun. Oh, you know what? It's a little curled up here. Give me a minute. There we go. Always make sure your wand is free from it being wrapped up. Sometimes the wire will hold. But like I said, just go around checking and tacking. Come back and check it, and if it's a little off, stick your little screwdriver in there, and come back, tack, check it. Every time you do metal work, you want to make sure you have nothing to do so you can concentrate on what you're doing, and that way it'll come out your best, Come back, check your side piece, push it a little bit. That's pretty good right there. I'm going to tack right there. Beautiful. Come back to the front, check your front. If it's not too flush, just barely touch it. Put a tack there. That'll hold it. Check your piece. You always want to check piece by piece because you don't want to go too far in and then your piece not being right, and then you have to grind and grind and grind. You don't want to do that. That's one thing I don't recommend, is a lot of grinding, because you just eat up all your metal. You eat up all the metal and you have nothing left, and eventually, by that metal being so thin and vibrating, it'll eventually crack. So grind enough, just enough to put your straight to metal primer, because primer will cover that. If you leave like a little bit of weld, just a little bit, I'm not saying a big lump, but just enough, you'll hit it with your high build primer and you'll block it and it'll cover right up. Because high build primer, that's what it's for. It's really thick and it'll cover things. But that being said, here what I did today was to show you how to do a lower rust patch panel. This is a 1972 Chevelle. This is the same process to any car. Any car you have, they all are spot welded from the bottom, they're spot welded from the side, and they're welded on the side. I hope I did everything I could to guide you, teach you, and motivate you. This is how you do a lower section rust patch panel. Now, all you have to do is weld, and you're done. Let's make it happen. Stay tuned for more content. We're going to make it happen. Let's go.